Welcome to Off-Grid Path. This is a 12-part series on how we converted a rundown static caravan into our dream cabin here in the UK. I want to deep dive into how we went from this dilapidated static caravan into our cosy cabin home with no experience whatsoever. For those of you who are wanting to do something similar, I'll be taking you through all of the things that worked really well and also the countless mistakes and things that definitely didn't work throughout the whole process. If you want to check out this series and more videos like this, then just head over to my YouTube channel Off-Grid Path and subscribe for more updates. Welcome to part 11, and in this episode we're going to be going through our soakaway, which is critical for all of our living appliances in terms of water drain away for the toilet, the shower, the washing machine, the sinks. And so this was a really big turning point for our cabin experience, certainly living experience, because it really was a game changer. So when I was thinking about doing the soakaway, there's a few things to consider, and there's lots of different ways of doing a soakaway. For us, we knew that we couldn't have flushing loos because we wouldn't be able to connect to the kind of the mains for a flushing loo. Or technically we probably could, but it would have been at huge expense and a lot of work. So that for us was not an option financially and time-wise. And then you've got various different types of soakaway, and you've got ones that are more expensive, arguably more efficient, and other ones which are more rudimentary, which is exactly what we went with. So it's very much a very simple soakaway. We essentially dug a hole, which is a fairly deep hole, probably about 1.8 meters deep, probably 2 meters at its deepest part. And then again, not very wide. It wasn't a wide soakaway, probably, about a meter wide, a meter square almost. With that, I then dug a trench with a very gentle gradient leading down to that soakaway, which was very simple to do, and then bought a bit of piping, and I think it's about 5 inches, the pipe diameter, something like that. Not a difficult thing to buy. You can just buy it at your local kind of DIY kind of depot store, I suppose. And the idea was that the pipes from the cabin, and bearing in mind we have 2 sinks, so it's going from that. We have a washing machine, drainage needed to be fed into that, and then we also had the urine part of the toilet, which would also feed into that pipe. So there's 5 different pipes that needed to feed into this main pipe, and then that would feed into the pipe, go down the pipe, and then it would be filtered down into the soakaway. And with the soakaway, it's quite a straightforward system really. We had this, luckily found this kind of garden fabric buried under some grass, so that was free, which was great. And that's permeable. It's not like a solid plastic fabric, it's permeable, and so water can escape through that. So I poked some holes in the bottom of it first, just to make sure that water really easily went through. And then I lined the soakaway with that, just chucked a couple of rocks in at the bottom, some large rocks, just to fill the bottom of the soakaway with rocks, and kept on piling those up and up and up, and then filled them in with smaller rocks, and then placed the pipe in, and then built the rocks up around that pipe as well. So the pipe was kind of held in place, and it was and ensured that the where it was flowing out of the pipe, there was a kind of void. It wasn't just going straight onto a rock where potentially organic matter could pile up and block it. So really ensured there was a void around the outlet of the pipe in rocks, and kind of structured that up around, and then that was kind of fixed in place. One of the things with the soakaway is you have to do kind of a water drainage test, and there is a name for it, and I've totally forgotten what it's called, but essentially you fill the soakaway up, and then you time how long it takes to drain. You do this for a few reasons, because one, it needs to be able to drain relatively quickly, because you don't want to fill it up and for it to overflow. It also gives you a very good visual idea of what's happening in the soakaway underground, because once you fill this in, you don't know what's happening. So it's a really nice thing to be able to fill it up and physically see what would actually happen when you're at your maximum dump load of water. So that might mean that you've got, worst case scenario in here, the washing machine's on, someone's in the shower and someone's washing up. that's the worst possible scenario you're going to have in terms of dumping water. That washing machine is draining, someone's having to wash up at the same time, and someone's having a shower. And even that wouldn't even come close to this water test. So one, it's that kind of reassurance that you filled it up and you know that that's not even close to the worst case scenario. So you've really covered your bases there. So you fill it up above what the, where it's draining out, and then you time it to drain out. And I think it took between 30 to 40 minutes. I can't remember the exact time, but roughly 30 to 40 minutes to drain, which is pretty good. I think I did look up the kind of ideal drain times. I don't think that there was an issue there anyway, but I was quite happy with that. We were never ever going to pump that amount of water in. I think also one thing you've got to, when I said worst case scenario, one thing you've got to bear in mind is how much it's raining as well, because that's obviously going to affect it. If you've got absolute torrential downpour, that's going to also fill up that soakaway. It's going to limit the amount of time that soakaway can drain, because it's also getting inundated with rainwater as well. So we let that kind of let that drain down, and then I folded over that material that we were using for the soakaway. Ensured that was folded over, and then just filled it in. It's very simple as that, really. Started backfilling everything in, then filled in the trench as well, so that was all filled in. Now this is a contentious issue. So I knew that Willow love water. They absolutely love water. They do an incredible job at soaking up water. So I thought, right, I'm going to plant some willow over this soakaway to help, try and limit the chance of it overflowing and take up some of that water. So I planted willow, copied some of the willow from the garden, and then planted some shoots. One definitely directly over the soakaway, and then probably about 3 or 4 meters either side of the soakaway as well, just to give it its best possible chance. If it did rain and get kind of bogged, that willow would soak up the water and help mitigate any potential overflow. Last thing you want with a soakaway is for it to overflow, because then you get some horrible smells and things like that. So I've had a lot of comments on YouTube about people. Some people say, "Oh, that's a brilliant idea with the willow," who are kind of in my frame of thinking at the time. But then a lot of people say that willow roots are incredibly invasive, like really hardcore, and they will find the source of water. And the roots are incredibly strong and fast growing, and they will potentially grow into where the outlet is and potentially block it up. And also some people have said that they'll even break through the plastic of the piping just to get to water, so incredibly invasive roots for willow have. So now I'm at the stage where I'm like, oh, okay, well, it's interesting, because if you see the willow out there now, the willow that's over the soakaway has grown really thick really quickly, so it's doing its job. But God knows what's happening underneath. So it's because of the nature of the soakaway that I built, it's not the end of the world. I haven't put concrete over anything. I haven't, it's quite an easy thing to be able to move and change, so it's not the end of the world. We'll see what happens. It's still functioning okay, but obviously I've got no idea what's going on under there, and I've got no idea how the roots are working. So we'll see how it goes. But that was just quite an interesting thing to bear in mind, because I thought I was being really clever by planting willow, thinking, wow, this is great, this is a really free willow, I can coppice it, I can put it down, it's going to really help. And they've flourished, which is great, but also probably not great from a root perspective. So something to bear in mind that I just thought I'd mention. Now it's very much about just these little finishing touches. And one of the things that was annoying me after doing the cladding on the outside is that these windows, as you can see, were just not framed in. It was a bit messy. And so I just spent a day, found some nice free uniform bits of wood that was enough to cover all of the window frames outside. And they're just very simple, nothing flash or anything like that. It's just literally, they're almost like batten, bit smaller, slightly different shade to the 6x1 cladding wood, so it looked quite nice. And just framed these windows in. So that gave such a amazing. It really was the finishing touch to the outside. I mean, there's obviously lots more that need to be done, but tiny little things like framing a window in makes a huge difference to the overall aesthetic and the door and things like that. And it really gives it a lovely kind of finished look. Makes everything just a bit more aesthetic. So that's the end of part 11. And in part 12, which is the final part of this series, the whole cabin build series, I'll be taking you through a complete finished tour. Well, I say finished, it's never going to be finished, but a tour of the cabin after living in it for a year. So you can see it, every part of it kind of finished inside, or certainly what stage we're at the moment, and give you a really good idea of how it is and how it looks now. So once again, the same again, if you do have any questions, please leave those in the comments below. I'll do my best to get back to you. If you have found value in this film, please just give it a like and a share. It makes a huge difference. So thanks so much for watching, and hope to see you in part 12, where we do that final reveal of the cabin, the tour inside and out, so you can see everything that we've done so far in the cabin. So thanks again for watching, and hopefully see you in the final part. Cheers.